Whenever I do that exercise, like I get all giddy on the inside of like, okay, what can you do now? Yes, I could do this. So this episode is on October 31st, also known as Halloween. I don't celebrate Halloween. I don't like the holiday. I don't really celebrate a lot of holidays to begin with. I don't celebrate it for religious reasons. This is also a change in the schedule because the 31st is obviously not the first or third Tuesday of the month. Because I thought 3 weeks was just too long in between, and it's not an extraordinary amount of effort to do a couple times a year to have 2 episodes week after week. Eventually, I would like to get to each week. That would be fantastic. I'd love to do that, but I'm just not able to do that right now. So we're going to keep with the odd weeks on Tuesdays. So the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, if there is a 5th Tuesday, because if it's not a 5th Tuesday, it's a 1st Tuesday. Because of just how, there's not a 6th Tuesday. Put it that way. Good, whatever time of day it is for you. This is the Consequences of Communication podcast, episode 2, Self-Talk. My name is Tyler, and I'm going to be your host today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this podcast. It's got a lot going on today, especially with one of the more important things about communication, self-talk. If your self-talk is bad, your communication is going to be bad. So that's why we're starting with self-talk, the innermost focus of what your communication comes from. So before we really get into it, for those that you can see behind me, I changed it from the Aurora Borealis to the woods because a lot of times, like when you go hiking or you're in nature or you're going, you get away from everything. So that's why that's back there. You get away from everything. So it's just you and your thoughts. And it's just you, your thoughts in this podcast and maybe driving in a car. So today, about self-talk, the 3 aspects that we're going to go over are: what is self-talk? How does self-talk influence our lives? And how to catch yourself from talking negatively with yourself, if that makes sense. Like how to get yourself out of the rut. But the question I have for you to think about as we go through this: what do you do when your self-talk is negative? All right, so now we're going to go into it. First point is, what is self-talk? Self-talk is how you think about yourself. Really, like how you talk to yourself, like how you think about yourself. For me, I have an internal monologue. I know not a lot of people do, or not everybody has an internal monologue. Some people think in pictures or emotions. I could kind of tap into the picture side of it, trying to like figure out if puzzle pieces go together. Negative self-talk is so detrimental to your mental health and emotional self. If you're about my age range, mid or early 30s and above, you probably heard your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles say that back in my day, we used to walk uphill in the snow both ways to get to and from school with one shoe that had a hole in it. Like this obvious fallacy or this obvious lie about how they got to and from school. But the intention is that was a metaphor for what it was like to go to school for them in comparison to what it's like for our generation to go to school. What really comes out of that is a fight to survive by pushing a snowball up a hill in those conditions, regardless of whatever direction you go. Sometimes, like when you're thinking about yourself and you're talking to yourself, like it's almost like no matter what you're doing or how you're doing it or whatever you're doing, your self-talk is negative. Like, oh my gosh, today I didn't do the dishes again. I'm already laying in bed. I'm not going to do that today. I'll go ahead and do that tomorrow before I get to work. Yeah, and that's probably not going to happen. We both know that that's probably not going to happen. But that's a negative statement. And focusing on the negative, what you did. Okay, so I didn't do the dishes today. Well, why didn't I do the dishes? Well, I was tired, or I didn't do the dishes today because I'm tired from the work that I did earlier today. I stayed overtime. I stayed late at work, had a longer day. Traffic was way worse than it normally is. Got home super late. I was just exhausted. Okay. But it's like kind of shows what you've accomplished. Like focus on that. Like instead of, hey, yeah, I stayed late overtime. Hey, I stayed late and I'm getting paid more this paycheck. Yeah, traffic wasn't the best, but now I know not to stay that late or just to stay way later because of the traffic to avoid that. So there was this great video put out a few years ago. I'm not exactly sure how long ago, but surprisingly it's from IKEA, which is the furniture company in Scandinavia, which is like, here's a simple looking dresser and there's 5 billion pieces to it, and it's going to take you 3 hours to figure it out without directions, and then you're going to break it, so you're going to have to get a new one, and then you're going to follow the directions and do it, and it's going to take you an hour and a half to put it together while following the directions. That company, or people who do put it together, don't really care for it, but that's why it's so cheap. Anyway, I digress a little bit. So they had a video that was an experimentation about, in school, in the front of in the lobby of the school, on one side they had a plant that was behind plexiglass. Well, they had 2 plants behind plexiglass, one on the left, one on the right, as you walked in. So one of them had a continuous voice recording of the students saying negative things. And on the right, or on the other side, it was the voices of the students saying positive things. The recording was played continuously 24/7. That's the only difference between the two. Same type of plant, same size, same environment, other than the speaking good things or negative things. And I don't remember which side it was on. But after a while, the plant that they were speaking good things to constantly via the recording looked super healthy. It was stronger than it would have been if it didn't have that. It grew a little bit faster. It was just overall a healthier plant. Now, the negative side, it was withered. It was an ugly greenish brown color. It was wilting. It wasn't like the leaves, instead of being like up and pointing like this, they were kind of like down and droopy, kind of like a weeping willow. Even though weeping willows are a healthy tree, they just hang. So I encourage you to go check out that video. It's a pretty interesting experiment. That's how self-talk is to yourself. Actually, that's how talking is in general. But in this instance, like if you're talking negatively to yourself, negative things are you're gonna end up like the wilting plant. But if you're talking good things about yourself and encouraging things, then you're gonna start growing, and you're gonna be able to recognize that. If you're struggling with negative self-talk, say one thing positive about yourself right now. It could be that you paid a bill on time. Could be you're doing your homework on time. Could be that you woke up and put on dry socks this morning. Could be that you actually drank some water before getting ready for work. Or you decided to climb the stairs and take the elevator. Whatever it is, say that out loud right now. I'll give you a moment to say it. Now say it again. That felt good, right? I want you to do me a favor, and this is going to be really complicated, but I believe you can do it. I believe in you, and I believe that you have the capability of doing this. I want you to smile and say it. Like, even if you have to fake your smile, smile. Fake your smile. I woke up today, or I paid that bill on time when I haven't been paying it on time recently. Speak up. Say it loud and put a smile on your face. Now, remember this feeling that you have right now? The feeling of giddiness and excitement with saying that about yourself? I want you to remember that. And remember what we just did, because it's important for later. And I also want you to incorporate that in your life. The second thing that we're going to talk about is, how does self-talk influence every aspect of your life? Now, that's a lot to talk about during this podcast. That could probably be its own episode altogether, but we're going to try and knock it out now. One of the things that helped change my perspective was a statement from a pastor years ago. And the pastor said, not just once or twice, it was like a habitual thing for him to say. He said it on a regular basis. He said, "You leak out what you're full of." And that really stuck to me. Again, if you start talking to yourself negatively, and that's what you're doing, you're filling up yourself with negativity. So you fill up with negativity, and then you spew out negativity. You leak out negativity. Even if that's not really what you want to do, but look at yourself and how you've been in negative situations and just negative time in your life, to something that you've been positive about in your life, or like your life was going for you. You could have been in high school, could have been just graduated, could have been in elementary school. but there was a time in your life where things were going good, but you had a lot of positivity during those times that allowed you to, enjoy life. And that's really what it is, because if you're speaking to yourself in a positive manner and you're shifting your mindset from talking negatively about yourself to be talking positively about yourself, it is amazing what you can do and what you realize that you can do once you've actually done that. Because then you'll start looking out good and positive things. And once you start looking out good and positive things are going to start moving better for you. I guaranteed. I promise you. Several times in my life, I've had to go through this process, or this metamorphosis, if you will, this change to make it lasting. Having conquered this mindset, I'm here to tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Life improves. Life changes for the better. There's a catch to it. There's a catch for life changing for the better. You have to do something about it. You can't just sit there passively waiting, sitting in your car, waiting day by day, waiting, I'm working from home, so I only go out to get groceries. The lottery should be showing up at my doorstep anytime to give me a couple $1 billion or a couple $1 million or a couple $100,000. No, like that is a depressed kind of life to have. Again, speaking from experience, not necessarily the lottery, but I've waited for other things to happen without doing anything to have those things happen, and that those opportunities have passed me by. And if I would have been able to do something and start working on something or working towards that goal or whatever it was, then I would have had those opportunities to be better, not just mentally or financially or anything like that, but it all starts with the mentality. And you have to take action to grasp onto your happiness and your joy. You can't just let it be up to somebody else. If you let your happiness and joy be up to somebody else and yet you're never happy and joyful, what kind of life is that? It's not really a life. Now, I'm not saying that life is all about happiness and joy, being joyful, but there is times where, life gets hard, and there may be not just a day or a week or a month or a year, maybe a couple years, maybe a decade, but as opposed to looking at the negative of things, looking at the positive gives you something that is essential for continuing to persevere with a positive mindset through the negativity of life. And that thing is hope. Hope that your life is going to get better, and pairing it with what I just said. Hope that your life gets better and taking action to achieve that. That's part of one of the reasons I started this podcast for me personally, is I want to make an impact in the world. And I got to start somewhere. So might as well start here. Might as well start now too. That's the song reference to Toby Mac. City on Our Knees is the name of the song. If you got to start sometime, why not now? If you got to start somewhere, why not here? If you got to start somewhere, I say here. If you got to start sometime, I say now. And I'm echoing those to y'all as much as to myself, because there's other things that I know that I need to work on so I can achieve that goal or start working towards that hope that I have that my life will get better. And I have a target on it, and I have things that are kind of mapped out, like loosely mapped out. They're not set in stone. And I have like a goal, like between 6 months and 8 months, I want to achieve this. If I'm actively working towards that, that's really when you start taking hold of your own happiness and your own joy in your hand as you're moving forward towards the goal that you have set for yourself. Third topic that I want to talk about under self-talk today is how to catch yourself from negative self-talk. This process is going to take some time, effort, and patience on your part with yourself. You have to identify that you are talking negatively to yourself and that you are using negative self-talk. I want you to identify some things that you know are statements that you use to talk to yourself negatively. For example, oh, I'm not good enough to go do this. I'm not skilled enough to go do this. I don't have the motivation to start a podcast. I don't have the motivation to research free things on YouTube. I'd rather watch shorts on TikTok and know the new famous or the new viral dance that's going around or the new viral trend. Yeah. So the first step is to identify what is causing your negative self-talk or how you're talking to yourself negatively. Not the what is causing it, because a lot of times you can't control like a situation that happens outside of your control. Like you go to work and your boss had a bad day. He lost all 4 of his tires. He got to work late and he starts yelling at you. You can't really control that, but you can control your reaction to it and how you reflect on that. So if that's the cause of it, and that's like, and he tells you that you're lame, you're not going to amount to anything, everything that's going wrong in this workplace is your fault. Like you don't take that to heart. If those are things that they say to you and that causes you to start thinking negatively, I want you to make sure that you don't, first of all, like this is a little bit beyond the scope of this podcast, but in that situation, just make sure that you, for the day, appease your boss or your supervisor or your coworker, whoever it was that told you that. But then make sure you keep your distance from them. Not like you're going to hide away or anything, but just make sure that you're not getting in their way to let it happen again, or for you to be the target again. Continuing with that example, you're by yourself, like those words may repeat in your head, but what is your response to those statements? Is it in agreement to, or do you stand against that? The way that you stand against that is saying to yourself, he did say that I wasn't going to amount to anything, but I got plans. Like I will amount to something. I may not know what it is yet, but I am going to amount to something. Everybody has the potential to. I'm not going to waste my potential on doing something or amounting to something when my coworker, my boss, my supervisor, my coworker is wasting their potential. I don't know if you want to do that or think that way, but maybe you need to. Or make that statement just to make sure that you have that positive mindset. Now, don't speak that out loud like, hey, you are wasting your potential boss or coworker or whatever. Like, you don't want to lash out at them, like I mentioned previously, because this is about self-talk, not getting them. If you change just that in how you think about things and start trying to look at it from other people's perspective, it could have just been the trigger of a whole bunch of other horrible things happening. That's outside of your control. But that's just an exercise that I use to help. Like, well, why are they upset? Why are they angry? Why did they choose me to lash out at? Do any of their words have validity to what, or any of the words that they spoke over me true? Well, if some of them are true now, okay, well, I don't like that being spoken over me. So how do I change that? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change it. I don't like where I'm at. I see where I want to be. So I'm going to start course correcting from going this way to over here. So it's going to kind of look like this. So it's going to start out very challenging. It's going to take time, effort, and patience on your part, like I said. Another thing to help get you out of the negative mindset, compliment yourself like we did earlier today in the podcast. Compliment yourself on something that you've accomplished today. Your car started, you left for work on time. Fantastic. You left for work on time. That is great. You are moving in the correct direction in more ways than one. Like in your personal achievements and then also directionally forward. So the third thing that I really want to kind of drive home with ways to catch yourself from negative thinking is, or not necessarily catch yourself, but correct yourself from negative thinking. Reassure yourself that you're committed to change, and keep the ideal person that you want to become in your mind at all times, or as often as you possibly can, so that you can, okay, well, what would this person do? What would a person with greater patience in this situation do? What would a person with greater wisdom do in this situation? Would they lash out? No. Typically, wise people don't lash out. Actually, it's really a fool who lashes out. So I want y'all to be wise people in your groups, like your friend groups, your work groups. I want y'all to be, you could definitely tell I'm from Texas, right, y'all? I definitely want y'all to be considered like the wise people in your workplace, in your families, because you don't lash out and you take the time to hear what everybody else has to say, and then you make sure that you're leaking out the good. As you fill up with good, you leak out the good, as opposed to leaking out the negativity because you're filled up with negativity. Whenever you start having a negative thought, immediately speak out. It could be a whisper. It definitely needs to be said out loud, because as you get in the habit of saying things and recognizing, I am having a negative thought, or I should have remembered taking out the trash. My memory sucks. I'm such an idiot. Instead of that, saying, my memory is improving. I did remember to take the trash out on time today. I am committed to continuing to take the trash out on time. Those are two drastically different outlooks on the same situation, right? Another one is, everything I touch dies, which I've said that before many times. That was a lot of my thought process for a while. I just learned how to do something now. I will not fail the same way that I just did, because I'm learning from the mistakes that I've made. Some additional tips to help prevent negative or correct negative self-talk is make note cards of positive statements that you say about yourself, or to counteract the negative thoughts that you have, and keep them with you. As soon as you have a negative thought, you can look through them. Okay, well, it was this negative thought, and on the back of it, okay, my memory is improving. I remember to take out the trash today. I'm committed to take out the trash on time, or every day, or whenever I need to. For me personally, one of the most encouraging or detrimental things to me is music. So if I listen to positive positive music, like the song I mentioned earlier, City on Our Knees from Toby Mac, that's kind of a positive, encouraging song. And, if I listen to more of that, then that really influences my train of thought, my way of thinking, than if I were to listen to other songs. The first one that comes to mind is the family-friendly version of the name is definitely not the original version, but Tonight I'm Loving You. Going clubbing, getting drunk, cheating on your boyfriend, spouse, premarital sex, like all of that is included in that song. So I listen to stuff like that. My way of thinking is very negative, and I start to become a jerk, if I'm being real, which I am being real on this podcast. So I've come up with a few playlists. I'll try and link them down below, or I don't know how really that works. So it's either going to be a link on the card here on YouTube, or link down in the description. Probably a link down in the description as well. So check the description here. It's going to be in the description of the episode on the podcast sites. There's one band in particular that I haven't found a song that they've done that does not talk about mental health. It's called Citizen Soldier. I recently found them. They have a lot of shorts on YouTube or on Facebook, but those playlists aren't only one band. It's several bands, and there's songs that are supposed to be encouraging, uplifting, and positive, and to help get you out of the negative train of thought. I went to an extremely dark time after my second divorce. It was actually about 8 years ago when that process started. That divorce process started. And I was just constantly negative. I'm an overthinker. So like as soon as the negativity started, it was like a toilet bowl, flushing down. Each thought is worse than the other. Each thought is worse than the previous. Each next thought is worse than the previous. So there's a song called Speak Life by Toby Mac. It's the concept is there is no neutral speech. There's only positive talk and negative talk, or you're either speaking life or you're speaking death. So, and speaking life is of course the positive. Speaking death is of course the negative. I couldn't get out of that rut without constantly reminding myself to speak life to myself. And how I did it, it wasn't note cards; those were too flimsy. It wasn't a sticky note on my mirror in the morning. It wasn't something on my car. It wasn't an alarm on my phone. I had to see it multiple times a day. And I was like, okay, so since I have to see it multiple times a day, I'm going to get a tattoo because it's just a great message for me to be reminded of. So for those of you who see this on YouTube, it says Speak Life right here on my right forearm on the inside, because I drive with my right arm, and it's there whenever I'm looking down in the speedometer or whatever. It's right there. I can see it. Speak Life. Because I drive with my hand on top of the steering wheel most of the time. I'm right-handed, so whenever I pick up a pen or pencil or whatever, I'm looking at it. So it's impossible to look at lettering without reading it once you know how to read. That was one of the best things that I've done to change my perspective. So to give you an idea of timeline for me, it wasn't an overnight thing. I got the tattoo of Speak Life it's either 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. I got the tattoo Speak Life. If it was 2015, it was 1 year. If it was 2016, it was 2 years after my most recent divorce. It took me another 3 or 4 years to like fully break the negative mindset. Then I could start analyzing myself from because so negativity, like the water level is up here above my head, so I'm drowning. So speaking life over to myself in my head kind of brought that level down, because I started getting good. I started to the water level started to decrease, so I can actually start breathing. And once I could breathe and felt like I could breathe, then that gave me the clarity of mind to start actually working through and processing the things that I needed to process and get rid of. So it's the water isn't just at neck level, it's like waist level right now, which, is way more bearable than like above your head. And for those who've gone through like really, really tough experiences, you kind of know like that unspoken weight, or that that uncomfortable weight where it's like you can't breathe, you can't think, you can't, like you're just like survival mode. I got to do this, and this. I got to eat. I got to go to work. I got to eat. I got to go to work. I got to eat, go to work. And then what really helped me out with that was friends that held me accountable, also known as best friends. We're going to get in that in a couple weeks or in a couple episodes. Or I have a handful of life philosophies that I try to live by. And I mentioned last episode, in episode 1, you'll get to hear some of them. So one of them that really helped me out during this time, that I realized during this time, one of my life philosophies that really helped me through this time, that I discovered during this time, is if you cannot laugh through life, find something to laugh about. Yeah, it's very similar to stop and smell the roses. Like, take a moment, find something to laugh about. And then during this particular thing, remember that giddiness that we talked about earlier, that you said to yourself, said something positive. Now you smiled about it and said it, and then you said it louder with a smile. To me, like whenever I do something like that, or whenever I do that exercise, like I get all giddy on the inside of like, okay, what can you do now? Yes, I could do this. It's pretty encouraging. So that kind of all flows together for me. And hopefully this is very helpful for y'all as well. I'm really passionate about this in particular, because I've gone through this. I mean, I've gone through everything I'm going to talk about. And everything that I talk about communication, I think is pretty important. But, this is the foundation ground rules was like the foundation. This is like the cornerstone. Like if the cornerstone gets taken out, then the whole building is destroyed. So which is self-talk. So you have the foundation, which is the ground rules, how to communicate. And those rules still apply to yourself too. Like come up with rules that I'm not going to talk negatively about myself. I'm not going to talk negatively to myself. I'm not going to say that I'm an idiot. I'm going to say that, wow, I didn't realize that I couldn't do it that way. I learned something. I'm going to do it this other way. Thomas Edison, he did invent the light bulb, or, he has credit for it. But when he was asked about how, oh, wow, you failed in making a light bulb 1,001 times. He's like, no, I didn't fail. I learned 1,001 ways not to learn on how not to make a light bulb. I don't know if it was that number exactly, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying with that. I want you to let me know down in the comments, in a review, in a rating, however you want to get this across to me. But I want to know if this helped you, and if this is starting to, or if you're going to incorporate some of the stuff that we talked about in your life to help break the cycle of negative self-talk to yourself. Yeah, I would find it very encouraging if you let me know to me, and I will respond. And also let me know if there's anything that I missed or if something else works for you. I'd love to find that out. And the homework assignment that I have for you this week, because I like giving homework out, it's not graded, never tested, just things that I think you should work on or things that I think would help you. Write down 3 positive statements to counteract your negative thought process. Then I want you to do something extraordinary. Actually use them and remember to smile. That's it. That's your homework. Write 3 positive statements down to counteract your negative thought process. Then actually use them and remember to smile while saying those positive things. Let me know if it works out. So if today's episode of Consequences of Communication, episode 2, self-talk, has helped you out, you think this will help somebody else out that you know, share it with them. Like the video, comment, subscribe, download this episode. I think I got all of them. Like, subscribe, share, download. There's so many different things to do on socials now. I think y'all know how to do that drill. The next episode is going to be Consequences of Communication, episode 3, Building Relationships, Self. Which means you're building a relationship with yourself, I believe, is going to help you out. There's more good information to come about like self-awareness and how to actually like really kind of check yourself along the way. We kind of did some of that today, but not too much. But thank you so much for your time and tuning in. I do appreciate it. Look forward to listening or to reading those comments, and we'll catch you next time.